So you're watching here Senator Cory Booker read Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem for filth, rightfully so. And I'm not going to get in more. Just go ahead and see her response to him calling out the wanton and blatant violation of the Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights of United States citizens and residents, not just in his state of New Jersey, but the entire United States. She calls out the purchasing of warehouse at double the assessed property value, and just look at her robotic response and refusal for accountability. It's so Stepford Wives-ish, scarily so. But watch through the end, because at the end is kind of like a zinger. He looks like gathers her. Check it out.
Secretary Noem, you're in charge of your agency. The buck stops with you, correct?
I'm in charge of my agency, what?
The buck stops with you,
yes, correct.
And you had to swear an oath to the Constitution before you took this job, right?
Correct.
So one of the most sacrosanct ideals of our nation, enshrined in our Constitution, is freedom, is liberty. Mm-hmm. It is an idea that the government has a very high standard should they take away liberty and freedom from an American citizen. How many U.S. citizens has DHS detained as of last October?
Senator, if you're talking about detained and arrested, is that those that have been violating and obstructing our law enforcement operations? Is that what you're referencing? Because it could be hundreds and hundreds. We have faced violent riots across the country,
you are
specifically in Portland and in Minneapolis.
The only people you've detained are committing crimes, but you and I both know that's not true.
No, I haven't said that. I didn't say that.
So then
how many people referencing
have you detained?
I can't give you an accurate number because we've literally detained and arrested many for those obstruction of law enforcement operations, and also
public
others
records,
that had probable
let me tell
cause.
you what my staff researched.
And then released
May I continue? Public records are showing that over 170 incidents of your agency unlawfully taking away the liberties and freedoms of American citizens. This includes 20 children, 20 American kids that your agency detained. How long can your agency detain an American citizen?
We don't detain children and separate them from their parents. Those parents have chosen to keep their child with them.
I just want to be clear. You're telling me under oath right now that your agency has not detained American children.
Those parents have chosen to keep their children with them. We don't separate families like the Biden administration did.
Let me continue.
We keep them together, and parents have the option on if they want their child with them or not with them.
How long do detentions last when you detain an American citizen? How long do they last?
We don't detain American citizens, and if there's probable cause.
Let me give you, because you are not speaking truthfully under oath. Isaiah Pena Salcedo, a U.S. citizen living in California, was detained more than 70 hours, almost 3 days, even after he showed ICE agents his passport. My colleague, Senator Blumenthal, gave you example after example. He brought people here who had something else we Americans consider sacrosanct: our home, our property. Your masked agents jumping out of unmarked cars have broken into, considerable property damage occurring, into American citizens' homes. Case after case of this, and you sit here before me and claim the buck stops with you, but you don't even know the names of these individuals. I ran New Jersey's largest municipal police department. When my officers engaged in misconduct, you can be damn well sure I knew about it and I investigated it. And yet you have situations where your officers are violating the sanctity of people's homes, arresting and detaining them and holding their children. And you're acting as if you don't know about it and saying that under oath. Miramar Martinez, who is here right now, on her way to church, an American citizen going to church, not just to worship, but to donate clothing. Your officers shot her multiple times The case was thrown out of court, and you represent here that you don't know about it. In New Jersey, are you aware of your officers' activities in places like schools? Are you aware of your officers' activities at our public schools?
Sir, we don't go into schools and do targeted law enforcement operations. We do targeted law enforcement operations like other agencies.
So you're
and law
telling me that
enforcement
ICE
do.
officers entered the grounds of a high school in Minneapolis? That's a fact. Elementary school children in New Jersey are terrified of your agents. When they came upon a school bus stop, they fled. Another school, a higher education, Columbia University, your agents reportedly lied to students, told them they were searching for a missing person to gain access to private spaces to non-public areas of campus. Secretary Noem, these are kids. They're terrified in our communities. How do you think that affects them when children in my state go running, fleeing, and often you all pursue children, throwing them to the ground, getting on their backs, putting them in handcuffs? I want to talk to you about this incredible empire of for-profit companies that are profiting at rates we've never seen, and the way you're using money. Let's drill down on the warehouses that DHS has been buying over the last several months, totaling hundreds of millions of dollars. Are you familiar with the acquisition of a warehouse DHS recently bought in Roxbury Township, New Jersey?
Yes.
You are familiar with that?
I'm
Do you know
familiar that
how much you spent for it?
No, sir, I do not.
$129.3 million. Do you know how much it was assessed for in New Jersey?
Sir, we're purchasing centers across the country to build efficiency into our detention system.
Efficiency to me, as a person who's run tight budgets before and had taxpayer dollars, you paid $129.3 million for a facility in my state that was assessed at less than half of that, at $62 million. To work for a president that says he's a great deal maker, I can't believe he thinks that you're a great deal maker. But what's worse than that is that the Roxbury Township Council, comprised entirely of Republicans, voted unanimously earlier this year to oppose that facility. My office tried to facilitate a meeting between DHS and local officials so that ICE could hear their concerns, yet DHS did not even respond. That is unacceptable, that you all would enter a town, you wouldn't even follow environmental reviews or have conversations with local officials about the resources, from emergency resources to fire resources and more, that you're going to pull down. You didn't even have a conversation. Secretary Noem, do you comply with court orders?
Yes, we do comply.
Your agency complies with court orders.
Yes, we comply with federal court orders.
You were saying under oath that you do, and yet we know in January the chief judge, Republican appointed for the Federal District of Minnesota, found that ICE had violated nearly 100 court orders since January 1st alone. In my state of New Jersey, last month, the Chief of Staff to Deputy Attorney General admitted in my state that in the New Jersey District Court that the government had violated 52 separate court orders, all involving cases where immigrants successfully challenged the legality of their detention. So this again is a constitution that you swore an oath to, and one of the most important ideals is that no one is above the law. You are violating the separation of powers, violating court orders, and routinely violating the civil rights of Americans. This is a reckless and out-of-control agency that you are responsible for. You seem to have no situational awareness whatsoever of some of the most egregious examples of Americans being completely attacked, violated, undermined in accordance with our laws by their own government. And this is what is phenomenal to me, is immigration was your president's #1 issue overwhelmingly popular with the American people. But now it's overwhelmingly unpopular. And it's not because you are deporting dangerous people that everybody here wants out of our country. No, it's because you're going into our schools. You're terrorizing our children. You're detaining children. You're arresting Americans. You're breaking into our homes. You're terrorizing our streets. You're violating our rights to peacefully protest again and again and again.
None of
and then
that
when
is
a court tells you
None
to
of
stop,
that is true.
and then when a court
You are
tells
trying
you to stop,
to impede
you
us
violate
from enforcing
judges'
the law
orders. Not in
and
a
getting
partisan
dangerous
way,
criminals off of our streets
Republican-appointed
so
and
we don't have more
Democratic-appointed.
families like the ones that are
Don't
sitting
sit
behind
there
me.
and tell me that
Lost
you are
their children. They're
responsible
gone forever.
for the running of your agency when you're not even aware. Either you are utterly incompetent or you are violating laws with impunity. You should step down from your position. If you don't, you should be removed by this president. And if not, Congress should impeach you.
Yes, right. And what was interesting is to me is not only her refusal to acknowledge that these underlings that she doesn't even know, like she's staking her claim, like they were, just defending them to like the end. It's kind of like, what's so hard about saying, yes, we have whatever our mission is, and our mission is X, Y, and Z, and we're trying to do it, and these people are impeding, blah, 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 blah. Say all the stuff you say, that's fine. You can still have those positions, and some of those positions could be true because some people could be impeding. Yes, that could be possible. I've seen evidence of impeding. I will acknowledge that. We all can be acknowledged that. We all acknowledge that we want the criminal elements out. We're all in one accord. At the same time that happens, you could also acknowledge that there are some officers that have been violating the protocol and training, that you have training to say you present, even though that's not true about the detention, because they actually have been training them to go in there with administrative warrants, not Fourth Amendment judicial warrants from courts. So that's not part. But in terms of the ones that are dragging out people, if the ones who are going to people based on their race, when Cory Booker said you came to officers that, you're going after people just based on their race, and you're going after folks and children and everything. Like, do you acknowledge that this is like wrong? You could say, yes, that's not our training. We weren't supposed to do that. This is the protocol. These folks look like they breached protocol. It will investigate. If they did breach protocol, we will then whatever. But to just not acknowledge that what we're saying here is horrific, and be like, yeah, that's horrific, but just stay with a straight face and defend it and then lie, because it's kind of, you're under oath. Like, you're saying all this stuff as if Donald Trump's going to be president forever. At the other side of this, he's 79 years old. So at some point, and I'm assuming you plan on being this planet like for another 10, 20 years. When he's gone, he's no longer president. These words that you live, and this is the benefit, because some people want accountability, and this isn't really accountability per se, but it is to the extent that she's under oath, making these statements, essentially just perjuring herself all day, just saying, no, this never happened. We didn't do this. We never arrested American citizens. It's kind of like those kids. I myself personally saw a video of ICE agents chasing kids. They're not with their parents. So we only detained them if they were no, there was a little kid who was on a bike. They chased down this kid, tackled a teenager, parents nowhere around, and detained them. So to say that we only detained them because they wanted to go with their kids, it's kind of like you're talking about the isolated incidences. We're showing you, we're telling you these incidences, and you have to have seen it before and just acknowledge like they didn't exist. Like, no, we're only doing this. It's like, that's perjury, because you had to know about this, because a lot of these instances are largely reported in the mass media, and there's no way that she didn't know about this, because her deputy Homeland Security Secretary, who got pushed out, have been saying stuff like, he did it, they deserved it. So if she's saying that on your behalf, you have to have known about it. So if you knew about it, you know that there was these instances. The PR response, which is crazy, is one thing, but in front of Congress to then say, in front of Senate to then say, no, that didn't happen. We didn't do this. Oh no, it was only because, girl, it's like, girl, what are you talking about? Here's the evidence. Just acknowledge the evidence. You're throwing your whole career on the line for people you don't even know. It's like no other law enforcement, that she has no law enforcement background. And had she had law enforcement background, she would have known. That's why when they interviewed Todd Lyons, and everyone in his crew, that his leadership team, when they interviewed, have actual criminal justice background, degrees, and law enforcement background, they honestly and openly, and I shared a previous video, if you don't follow me on JT Legal, I hold the Trump administration accountable and share the lawsuits and involving the Trump administration, and show the extent to when Congress pushes back in congressional hearings. And I shared a video with Representative Al Green, and he was able to draw out from the agents that when Kristi Noem came out her face and said what she said, blaming Alex Preddy for his own death and saying domestic terrorism and say all these things before all the facts were on, that was irresponsible. Law enforcement never do that, but she has no law enforcement background. And so she refused to recognize, well, you know what, my limitations were me not having a law enforcement background. That was my reaction. And I didn't know better. She's not going to say she didn't know better, but people have told you that's not to do. So you know that's not the protocol. Now you're in front of Congress. Why are you still refusing to acknowledge that you made a mistake? I think this from the top down, when you talk about corporate culture, the corporate culture of the Trump administration, because he operates America like one of his failed businesses, is to never admit wrongdoing. Always blame someone else. Always shift blame on someone. No accountability. That's unattractive. That's why, as Cory Booker said, your approval rating is underwater. And it didn't start out that way. It got that way because of your actions. People want the lawless, the people want the folks who are not here lawfully. They want the criminals off the streets. Yes, we all agree with that. And like I said, we can admit that there's some impediment. We can admit there's certain things we can meet in the middle, but you refuse to meet in the middle. And it's not going to ever look good when you're gaslighting America and saying you're not doing stuff, and we see you're doing stuff. And that's my issue with her. It's like, just acknowledge you can't do that. So you're given a chance, and you're given a chance in front of the Congress. Last time she was able to skip out. She can't skip out this time. Anyway, that was a delicious read, and it was a delicious rounding up, and I love it. It's like, you were incompetent. Resign, or we will impeach and convict you, or your freaking president, which he's not going to do it, needs to remove you because you're not doing it. We'll see what happens. Anyway, JJ, each one teach one. Let's discuss below.